I'm entering a season of intention, elimination, relentless pursuit of action, obsession, focus. There are numerous ways to call it, but going to New York City for a month from May to the start of June really changed my perspective on a lot. And I was so hesitant to go at first because of how my previous experiences in two cities had gone prior. I lived in Boston all of 2023 for a series of startups. Those fizzled out. I moved back in with my parents. At the time, I thought I was the biggest failure ever. I was embarrassed to be moving back home. But the posture of my heart going into that was, I don't want to say ill intended, but riding that fine line. My mindset was moving up there. I'm going to make it big, come back down here and be like, screw you guys, essentially. Screw you guys, everyone who doubted me, etc. I then got right with my faith. That's been a guiding light, my anchor from that point on. Although I was still 1 foot in, 1 foot out for the longest time, I then forced another move to Columbus, Ohio. Don't ask me why. I was just so ready to get out of my hometown where I grew up in South Carolina. Lived in Ohio for 8 months, and 8 months was more than enough. And I felt that push to come back home last August 2025. Now, there were a series of events in August that were trying to make me frustrated. One being my car broke down in the middle of the mountains in West Virginia and had to take some detours. But in that moment, I laughed, said I was going to get through. Last August was when I seriously got into running. And I thank a very, very good friend of mine for who he is as a person and what he's building. He's a big inspiration to me in more ways than not. But that was my push to really start running on top of, I was in a season of pushing myself every single day. I still am Kaizen. Kaizen means 1% better each and every day. So I moved back, and these last 11 months have changed my perspective on a whole lot because of me surrendering to the situation. Okay, this is who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. I love connecting with people, building cool things. I've always struggled with surface level conversation when it comes to walking out and about. I struggle with that type of stuff that I'm not interested in. Whereas if I run into someone who is competing at the Olympic trials, I want to know their mindset behind their training process. I want to know their diet. I want to know their hydration schedule. I want to know how much they're sleeping in a night. Not many things are surface level. And I think there's this mask that a lot of people put on. It's like, no, I want to see the real you. Don't put on that mask. And especially where I grew up, it's very difficult to be unmasked because that small town mentality is it's different. I'm very comfortable with who I am. That's not going to stop me, but it has stopped me in the past. So moving forward, I am entering that season of relentless pursuit of action. New York made me, it relit that spark or lit it. I always knew I had a burning desire to create something useful for society, to lead in some manner. And although only being in New York for a month, that month was more than enough time to bring that side of me out. Running in New York was absolutely euphoric. A 10-mile run felt like a 3-mile run because of how stimulating it was. The world's biggest playground. Running all the way through New York, tall skyscrapers, all the way to Central Park and back. Remember my first long run in New York City, I was staying in Williamsburg. I ran from Williamsburg over the Willoughby Bridge where I could see the entire skyline, which amazed me every single day because I don't have that where I am currently. And it's, it's where dreams are made of. I think of Empire State of Mind. I think of Frank Sinatra while running over that bridge. But I ran from Willoughby all the way to Central Park and back, ripped a half marathon, and feeling fine after that. I was like, whoa. Now, I've run half marathons in the past, but just the fact that it was in New York was a lot more inspiring. So, getting to meet all sorts of people in New York as well, building cool things, it just did something to my soul. I didn't feel like an outcast. I always think of the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer claymation Christmas special, The Island of Misfit Toys, where I felt like a misfit toy a majority of my life, but that's all New York City is. Everyone's chasing something. Whether that be good or bad is not up to me. I have no room for judgment. Matthew 7, at the header, it says, "Do not judge others." I can only plant seeds along the way. And it's important to meet people where they're at in life rather than uh, judging them for how their lifestyle is. And something that I struggle with in church. Church is not confined to four walls. And I've met some of the most judgmental people within church. But that's a different topic for another day. Just meet people where they're at. Get to know. Spread kindness. Be kind to everyone you encounter. You never know what people are going through. But the main company I have is a holding company. And as I've been reflecting on that, listening to a podcast featuring Hormozy, he mentioned he listened to something very early on in his entrepreneurial career. Said, "Are you seriously about it? Or are you a wantrepreneur?" And that hit home. But I started reflecting on it a little more these last 5 years because I've had my moments where I was serious about certain things. And then maybe I wasn't serious about others, where I was choosing avoidance rather than facing something head on. Now, I've struggled with alcohol in the past. I used to resort to psychedelics to try and gain some form of external understanding and battle the nicotine addiction for the first time last summer, which was fun to wean off of. I'm just weaning off of one right now. But coming back from New York, I was transitioning into a mission trip to Guatemala. And coming back from that, it was very clear what the next steps are to take in the season I'm about to enter. And the season of elimination means eliminating everything and everyone that is not for me. And I'm all about supporting people from afar, and people want to reach out, got my phone number. But doing everything in my power to continue building, to continue creating, remain that childlike mind. I think that's a very important aspect of this entrepreneurial process. Because I think of your Christopher Nolan's, your Steven Spielberg's, George Lucas, James Cameron. Look at all the movies that they've directed. James Cameron with Avatar, George Lucas with Star Wars, Christopher Nolan with Batman, Odyssey, and how imaginative those movies are. And to make movies like that, it's important to have that childlike mind. It's like, okay, if I were viewing this movie, what would I want to be a part of this film? Or what tiny little detail will stick out to create the best viewer experience possible? So this has definitely been a more difficult path, but one I've always felt called to. And I started recording myself 2 years ago to increase my speaking ability. It started out as that. Then about a year ago, I turned it into, okay, now my family's going to have something, a little piece of what it was like when their father was going through the process. And then I saw my friends putting their videos out publicly, which was a big inspiration to me to start putting out publicly. I've never put anything out on YouTube until now. I mainly just put my stuff out on X. I just recently started posting on Instagram, which is difficult because I come from a small town. You know, there is that outside judgment. It's like, what are you doing? So it's trying to discern from that. And, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Following what I feel called to do. And I really hope I can share things that I've learned along the way with the younger generation that I wish I was taught at 21 when I was just starting out. So for those of you that stuck around, thank you and Godspeed.